Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of an On Purpose Conversation with. I'm Mr. Pieper, and today we have the lovely Mrs. Brey. Mrs. Brey, welcome to the first ever episode. It's so awesome to have you. So for our viewers, if they don't know already, who are you? What do you do? What is your role here at Karate America?
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to have this on purpose conversation with you today. So I'm Mrs. Brey, and I wear many hats in the company.
Yes, you do.
So one of my main roles is I do handle the billing. So I handle that for our Brookfield location, our Pewaukee location, and our worldwide location. That was the main reason I was brought on to Karate America to begin with, is to handle some of the billing pieces. And in the past 3.5 years, my role has expanded. I am now doing much of the HR work for the company, so handling phone interviews, Zoom interviews, in-person interviews. As you can imagine, summer camp is coming.
Yes, it is.
And so there's some hiring that needs to go on for that. So this has been a busy season hiring-wise for me. And then in addition to those two roles, I also carry an administration piece, just doing some behind-the-scenes work, supporting the team that way. And one of my most fun roles that I have is I drive a van for the after school.
That's right, for a Brookfield school.
For a Brookfield school, and so that really just puts me right out in front of the students, and I have a blast with that. That's a lot of fun. So each day I get to go and pick them up.
Yes. We're also sometimes filling in for our front desk team at both locations as well. So
Absolutely.
You might have seen her out there.
Yes.
So kind of jumping back, how did you get your start with Karate America? Because I always like to ask that from each staff member, and they each have a slightly different take, and I think yours is quite unique. So if you'd regale us, please, all the way those years back, how'd you get started?
Sure. So it was the summer between my son's kindergarten and first grade year. So this is quite a few years ago now. We were having a play date with a friend of his and the mom, and the friend. We decided to go to the zoo, and it was one of the kids' nights at the zoo.
Ah, yes, very familiar with those.
And the friend looked at the schedule and said, "I'd really like to go see this karate demo at whatever 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever the time was." And I looked at my son and I said, "Well, do you want to do that?" He's, "Sure, why not?" Let's go check it out.
Knowing your son, that's very, very, very usual. Yeah, let's do it.
So we wandered around the zoo until it was time to go for this demonstration, and off to the primate house we went. And they had a whole area set up for Karate America.
Yeah.
They did a short demo, and then the students were invited, or the participants were invited to actually get a lesson, have like a little mini lesson right there.
Right.
And so I think what hooked him was the Kid Smashers. I think that's a fan favorite.
Very, very much so. If you ever have used Kid Smasher, your son or daughter has used Kid Smasher before or gotten smashed, put some comments down below. We want to hear about it.
And so we got through that, and the excitement level was really high, and the big wheel was there, so we got to spin the big wheel.
That's right.
And we did our trial lesson. We came in and got our uniform and did our 5 trial lessons, and he was hooked after that. So we
Probably
signed
in the orientation room.
Yes,
back
in
when
the old
for those of you who knew,
orientation
the old
room.
orientation room.
Yes.
That's where I had my first lesson too. So it was a good spot.
It was a great spot.
Yes.
So we did that, got his uniform, signed him up, and off, and basically the rest is history.
Right.
But interestingly enough, at the time when I signed him up, he went right into the little ninja program,
Right.
because he was still 5 or whatever. 6, I think he was 6 at that point. And there was no Young Achiever program at the time. He went right from Little Ninjas right into the big kid class.
Yeah, basic program.
Yes,
yep.
exactly.
There was a big jump back then.
It was
really
a big
jump.
jump, and he had to be invited to that. The instructor had to invite him into that, and I still have buried in my basement, in the dark recesses of my basement, I kept that recording
Yes, that's
on my little
awesome.
machine from
Right.
Mr. Ty River.
Yes, Mr. Ty River.
Saying we'd like to invite Colin Brey
Yes.
to our next level class.
That is fantastic. Oh man, Mr. Tyler. Mr. Tyler was the gentleman who actually tied on my white belts as well. So he was my first ever instructor. So
Yes.
he's a big deal. So that's how you get started as a family member, as a parent of Karate America.
Absolutely.
When or how did you get hired? Because that's a whole different jump. So what was the story on that, Mrs. Brey?
It's a completely different story. So this one also happened in the summertime.
Okay.
My son,
Popular season for
popular
you.
season
Yes.
for us. So my son came home and he said, "Hey, they're looking to hire at Karate America. Hey, Mom, you should put in your application."
Yeah.
Okay, and this was only like 3.5 years ago.
Yes, right.
And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." And he kind of
Sure.
kept, "Yeah, sure, honey, sure." And he kept encouraging me, "Go fill out that application, go fill out that
Yeah.
application." And it got to this point where he actually physically handed me the paper and said, "Fill this out, Mom."
Yes.
Okay, I haven't filled out a job application in probably like 455 years.
Right.
So I filled out the application, I handed it over to the front desk, and a few days later it was the Karate America picnic.
Right. That
And-
happens every July, so keep your calendars open. We'll be announcing it soon.
So Mr. Cork approached me at the picnic and
Yeah.
he said, "I heard you put in your application. Are you serious about this, Mrs. Ray?" And I said, "Absolutely."
Right. I guess I have to be
Yeah,
now.
now I'm in. I'm committed.
Right.
And he said, "Great, let's talk next week." And I said,
Nice.
"Fantastic, we'll talk next week." And so that's how it went. And then I, interviewed with Mr. and Mrs. Cork, and then
Mhm.
got hired. And my version of the story is a little different than my son's.
Okay.
The way he likes to tell it is he got me the job.
Okay.
Nothing to do with me or my skills. He got me the job.
So we're probably going to hear from him in the comments down below.
We
so
may.
That's what I'm hearing. So,
It's
Mr.
a-
Brey, if you're out there, we're setting the record straight. You can fight your arguments in the comments down below.
It's great. I actually think it's adorable that he
Yes.
takes ownership of that
course.
that he got me hired.
Right, which is sometimes in most cases the opposite.
Yeah.
So, very funny. Well, now we got to know you a little bit better. Kind of going into some questions just about your time here at Karate America and just what has been, let's actually just start back at the front. Like, what was the most nerve-wracking thing about starting? So from going from a parent who has seen your kids grow up through the program, because your daughter also did a little bit in the beginning,
Yes.
to now actually being on staff and actually being a part of the team. What was the big difference, or what was the shift there for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me, one of the most nerve-wracking pieces was getting to know the staff as staff instead of as hey, this is somebody who teaches my kid karate, or somebody I wave to as I'm walking in the
Right.
door, and building those connections and relationships with the team from a different angle.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the most, I wouldn't say nerve-wracking, but that was an adjustment for me,
Mhm.
definitely.
Nice. This is an on-purpose conversation, so I think we should bring some purpose and values into it.
Sure.
So our purpose at Karate America is we inspire people to believe in themselves, and each staff member knows that, we live that. That is what we do. From every decision that we start with starts with our purpose. So I guess the question for you becomes, way back when you started, when your family started with us, we didn't have our purpose defined.
Correct.
Did you still feel purpose back then, now that we have it defined, that we uncovered it, as Mr. Pork likes to say? Or do you feel that it was different? Or what are your, I know we keep reaching the past, we'll get to the future here shortly, but what are your thoughts on purpose back then?
Sure. The purpose did show up for me then, but it was a little bit more implicit.
Right.
Same with the values.
Mhm.
So I found that when I spent time in the academy, I left the academy wanting to be a better person.
Right, yeah.
I wanted to pick up the garbage that was on the ground, or put the grocery cart back to pick and save, or whatever it was to help strengthen the community.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt that when I left the academy, it did inspire me to want to just be a better citizen in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Right. And then now shifting, to today, how does purpose show up for you? Is it still that same wanting to be a better person, or does it go further, or what do you think?
It definitely goes further for me. I like that it's more explicit now. It gives me something to be a little bit more grounded with. A little known fact about me is I'm also a Girl Scout troop leader.
There you go.
And so we have like our Girl Scout law and promise. And I often find myself saying to my Girl Scout troop, we strengthen our community, we leave it better than we found it. And the girls look at me like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Because there's very similar values with the Girl Scouts, but they're named differently. So I often find myself swinging into KA values. And so now they've come to start to know the KA values because I say them out loud to them.
I love it. And what are the ages for your Girl Scout troop that you're leading and inspiring? Because I think that's so awesome to have a member of our KA community actually out there, not just with Karate America, but with another group of our community. So
yeah, sure. So I have high school freshman girls.
Gotcha.
I still have a troop of 5 girls, and at this age level, that's a pretty sizable troop.
Yeah.
And at least 3 of those 5 girls want to continue to go on and earn their gold award, which is the highest award that a Girl Scout can achieve.
That is fantastic.
And so I'm happy to be a part of their journey and do that with them, and I'm happy to continue to inspire them. And because they inspire me, it goes back and forth.
Of course, because purpose isn't just I inspire you, but it's we inspire people to believe themselves. So it's a full circle purpose, which I really like as well.
Same.
So I love that we got to learn a little bit more about you with the Girl Scouts. That's awesome. Another question that I'm probably going to ask all the staff and all the people who I interview, but what is the best thing about Karate America? What is the either working for or being a part of or just in general, what is the best thing about the Karate America community?
You said it.
It's a big question. Big question.
All right, I have a fast answer.
Yes.
It is the community. It's the community of not only like the students themselves, because like I said, I get to drive this van every day, and I get to see these same students each day, and I get to connect with them and find out what's going on in their personal lives or what they did at school that day that was so exciting for them. So it's all the way from the students to the parents and being able to build that connection and community with the parents, and then also with the other staff, to being able to build the community with the other staff. I really enjoy working with the staff because the staff is a little bit younger than me. So I really enjoy hearing the perspective of a different generation and the voices of a different generation. I might not get this opportunity somewhere else because we have such an extraordinary group of people that work here at Karate America, and so I really appreciate that community that I get with that.
Yeah, being a part of that group, I would agree with you. Just growing up in the program. I mean, we talk about my start. I started when I was 8, so 2008. And so just growing, this is all I know, which is I think really, really cool. So like, I mean, of course I've known school and other things like that, but this is the place I choose to come to, so which is really, really cool. Another question for you. What was the biggest thing that surprised you about martial arts? Like that we're a martial arts school, but like just in general that surprised you, either of recent that was like, oh, hey, that you woke up to, or from years past, what surprised you, Mrs. Brey?
Sure. It's something that surprised me early on, and it's something that continues to inspire me and amaze me even to today. And that is, and we say it internally often, but I'm not sure how often we speak it externally, that we are more than just kicking and punching. So when I signed my son up for martial arts and karate, I was a little bit concerned, like, okay, is he just going to want to kick and punch everything
like
the
a
old
kick and
drama?
punching machine, right?
But then once we got into the program and I was seeing that he was learning skills other than just the physicality of it, he was learning how to be a leader. He was learning how to bring his voice out. He was learning how to, and same with my daughter when she was involved, learning that confidence piece. Like, I encouraged each of them to participate in as many of the tournaments as we could,
right.
because I wanted them to have that experience of standing in front of a group of people and being able to speak. And public speaking is like the number one fear for adults.
It is.
And so I wanted them to learn very early on that this isn't a scary thing, that you can use your voice in front of a group of people and have that be okay. So it's been the martial arts, it's been the discipline, it's been the respect, it's been that, but it's been the leadership, it's been those other pieces as well. And so those continue to inspire me.
Definitely. It was actually funny because I actually took a class in high school about public speaking. I was like, hey, a bunch of the stuff that we're doing in here, I've already been doing, and the teacher even like said something like, have you taken a class before? And I'm like, no, I just did this karate thing for 10 years. And she's like, well, you're really good at it. I'm like, I guess so. So, speaking of school and things, have you seen an increase in both your son and daughter because of martial arts in either just the facets of karate or exterior with like possibly Girl Scouts with your daughter, or what's been your kind of thought on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I see with both of my kids, this awareness or this understanding about how they need to interact with their teachers at school. There's this level of respect that they have when they're speaking to their teachers that, you know, in high school nowadays, like I'm not in a high school setting, but I hear little things, and so that respect, that piece of how am I going to talk and address an adult, somebody that's an authority figure to me, that piece is really important, and that shows up for both of my kiddos. So, yeah.
Another question for you. So we talked about purpose, values. What has been the biggest thing about values that has surprised you, or that you would want our viewers at home watching in our Karate America community?
Sure. So I love how explicit the values are. And I like how we start with our purpose, right?
Yeah.
So we talk about this again internally.
Yes, we do.
We start with our purpose, and then it's guided by our values. So the values help support the purpose in a very explicit way. And so I think one of the values that surprised me a little bit, but that is so near and dear to my heart, is we are fiscally healthy.
Yes. So, if you want to speak a little bit more about that, because I have some backstory, but I don't know what the viewers at home do. So enlighten us, Mrs. Brey.
So that one I really appreciate, and I like that it's included with the other values, because it is important for each of us to be good, stewards of our money,
right?
To be able to be out in the world and be spending our money in a really conscientious, thought out way. And so I think what you're referring to is what you want me to share. Is
if you would like to share,
I'm happy to
share. Yes.
So so now both of my kiddos work at Karate America, so you get three of us. And when each of my kiddos started, so my son is now 19 and my daughter is 15. When each of them started, I said, hey, listen, we are fiscally healthy, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to talk to the financial advisor, and we're getting you set up on a retirement fund. So they both have their Roth IRAs that they contribute to on a regular basis as they get paid. They put a percentage of their money into their Roth IRA.
That is fantastic.
So when retirement is many, many years off for them.
But they are still contributing, and there's going to be a big chunk of change there.
And it's just about the discipline of it. It was taking that little bit now and a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here and adding, and it will build up. And it's just really about that discipline for them.
Yes, which is another one of the things that we do teach and use here at Karate America, which is fantastic. So, let's see. Do you have a question for me, Mrs. Brey? I know we've been doing a lot of focus on you, but I'll give you a breather. Question for me, ma'am.
Yeah, I would love to know a little bit more about what inspires you, Mr. Pieper, and which one of the values really stands out for you.
For me, we hold ourselves and each other accountable for our actions and attitude. That one in particular, because the wording, and I teach the kids this in our classes. We hold ourselves. It's very intentional why ourselves, then each other is in there, and that's because I equate it to the sibling because I have two older siblings, so anytime I would point to them, well, they're not doing it, like that kind of back and forth of like, well, if they're not doing it, I don't have to. But it's like, no. That value starts with me.
Sure.
It starts with me, and then once if I'm doing it, then I can hold others accountable for their actions and attitudes. But ultimately, it starts with me. So that one really resonates because I mean that's what my parents taught me when I was a kid, and that's what I hold dear. So
Nice, very nice.
cool. Do you have another question?
So for you, like, what is a little known something about Mr. Pieper that you think, the world might like to know?
Right. Well, I think it's pretty well known, but I love technology. That is I think I am like Karate America's resident IT guy, like
Yes, you are.
like a very like underknown, like the staff knows, but I don't know if the families and our Karate America community quite knows. But it's usually I who are doing the tech stuff. If there's a tech problem, Mr. Pieper, we need help, right there. So technology is my thing, whether it's digital, whether it's
Yep.
setting all the video stuff up or whatever it might be. That's been my jam. I think we're about at our time, ma'am, so we'll do a few more questions, and
Sure.
then any other things that you want to talk about, we'll go for it, and then that'll be it on our first ever video podcast, which
Sounds
is
great.
very exciting. So let's go a year ago. So a year ago, pandemic hit. What was your lens as a parent of two kids in the pandemic versus now just Karate America, not Karate America, what was your lens?
Sure. It's a great question. And one I think about often because I often compare like where I am sitting April 19th now
Right.
versus April 19th a year ago.
Very different.
And April 19th a year ago, we were still very much knee deep in not knowing,
Right.
just as a community, as a nation, as globally,
Mhm.
we were still sort of very much reactive in what was happening, and so dare I say there was some fear floating around
Mhm.
out there. There just was because it was the unknown.
Right.
And I think our team, our staff did a really good job of making that shift to be able to continue to support our community. You, Mr. People, were a huge part of that and getting the equipment set up
Yep.
so that we could have our classes virtually, so the students could still feel a part of the community, and how important that was to have something that felt somewhat normal or regular. I can
Right.
check in with my instructor. I can still see them. That was extremely important and made me extremely proud to be a part of the team when we were able to do that and accomplish that in such a short amount of time. And schools, like the school district my kiddos were
Yeah.
in, they didn't make that switch as quickly. Like there was
Right.
still a lot of just variables out there, and so from like a parent standpoint, there was like a little bit left to be desired
Yeah.
with the schools. And I know they were doing the best they could. Like they
Right.
really too had to like pivot on a dime
Exactly.
and kind of make things
And
happen.
it's a whole school system. That's the other thing. It's like
Yes.
we're a business, so we can move how we need to move, but they're a whole big
They're
school, so
right,
organization. Yeah.
So compared to a year ago, like I'm really proud. I'm proud of the progress we've made as a team with Karate America. I mean, even the space that we're sitting in a year ago didn't exist.
Didn't exist for us. That's right.
It didn't exist, so I'm really happy that we are in this really magnificent space now. And I'm happy that the school district that my kiddos are in, they made the switches they need to make, and my kiddos are now flourishing as a result of that. Although my son did graduate high school
Yes.
last year.
Put some graduation hat emojis or something in the comments for Mr. Brey, one of our instructors at our Brookfield school.
So his experience was a little bit different than graduating classes prior and
Right.
graduating classes later, but that's okay. He's, I always said like these students have never graduated,
Yeah.
so like for them this is
normal. Yeah.
It's okay. We just rolled with it. We did what we needed to do, and
Right.
we were safe. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the team. I'm grateful that we are now in this place where we are a year later, and
Yeah.
it only took a year.
Right.
I mean, in centuries past,
Yes.
it would have taken
It's been a
maybe
whole big deal, yes.
more years. So I'm really grateful that our community, our nation, our global
Yes.
community was able to come together and do something as quickly as we did.
Right, definitely. I'm there with you. Just, I remember it's been a year already, which is crazy to think that
Yes.
when we got the news that we had to stop our in-person operations and we were going to shift virtually, it was like this, oh boy. I remember Mr. Cork coming in with all his tech stuff, setting up, plugging stuff in. I was like, what is going on out there? and just seeing the magic that we were able to switch and stay open
Yes.
virtually, which was really, really incredible.
Yes,
So
yes, I agree.
very, very cool. So we're about ready to wrap up. Is there any kind of the question that you would pose to me, any hidden fact or thing that you would love to share with the Karate America community, Mrs. Brey?
That's a great question. So let's see. No, I don't have really anything. I think I left it all on the map.
Hey,
so to
good. I
speak.
love it. I love it. Well, I'm really excited. So we're going to do another podcast of this with a different staff member. It's a mystery. We don't know who it is going to be quite yet. But you guys can leave questions for that person about purpose, about values, just in general questions for that person in the comments down below. And we're going to make this a new weekly series, which is very exciting. So maybe we'll have to have you back and maybe get the kids involved too, which will be exciting.
I would very much like that. And thank you for having me
Yes.
here today, Mr. Pieper. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to sit one-on-one with you and talk about our purpose and our values, and I would love to come back.
I love it. Wow. Remember, at Karate America, our purpose is we inspire people to believe themselves. And this has been our On Purpose conversation with Mrs. Brey. And we'll see you guys soon. Bye.